Have you ever wondered about the signs that signal the nearing of the hour? According to Hadith, there are specific portents to watch out for. The hour, a term that, within the context of Islamic eschatology, refers not to the marking of time as we know it, but to the day of judgment. This pivotal moment, foretold in the Hadith, is said to be preceded by certain signs or portents. These portents serve as divine signals, cautioning us of the nearing of this consequential day. Now, what are these portents? Well, as narrated by Anas, R.A., the Prophet Muhammad outlined 4 key signs. First, the removal of religious knowledge, specifically by the death of the learned men who carry it. This isn't a simple fading away of knowledge, but a profound loss, akin to a candle being snuffed out, leaving the world in spiritual darkness. Second, the Prophet spoke of a prevailing ignorance about religion. This is not just a lack of knowledge, but a widespread misunderstanding and misinterpretation of religious teachings. It's a time when the essence of faith becomes distorted, and the true path becomes obscured. The third portent is the commonality of consuming alcoholic drinks. This signifies not just an increase in consumption, but a normalization of it, a time when the line between the permissible and the forbidden blurs and the societal norms shift. Finally, the Prophet warned of the prevalence of open, illegal sexual intercourse. This is a clear reference to a time when moral and ethical boundaries are crossed with impunity, and illicit activities become widespread. These are the portents of the hour, as outlined by the Prophet Muhammad. They serve as a stark reminder of the moral and spiritual decay that precedes the day of judgment, but they also serve as a call to action, a reminder for us to uphold the teachings of the faith and resist the tide of moral decline. Now let's delve into these portents and understand each one in detail. The first portent is the disappearance of religious knowledge. This prophecy foretells a time where the world loses its religious scholars, the custodians of divine wisdom, to the inevitable hands of death. The absence of these learned individuals will create a vacuum in religious understanding and guidance. Imagine the scenario: the repositories of knowledge, the interpreters of divine teachings, gone. This loss will not just be about missing individuals, it will be about missing wisdom, missing guidance, and missing clarity. As this knowledge fades, so too will the ability to interpret and understand religious teachings correctly. This paves the way for ignorance and misinterpretation to creep in, replacing the lost knowledge with misconceptions and fallacies. The repercussions are significant as it leads to a spread of ignorance, breeding confusion and chaos. This is a world devoid of spiritual light, a world where misinterpretation is rampant. A world without religious guidance is a world lost in darkness. The second and third portents are closely linked: the spread of ignorance and the commonality of sins such as the consumption of alcohol. In a world where religious knowledge fades, ignorance takes root. This isn't the kind of ignorance that simply means not knowing, but rather it's a profound lack of understanding, a missing depth of wisdom that once guided humanity. It's a kind of ignorance that leaves people wandering in the dark, unmoored from the foundations of faith, ethics, and moral compass. And what happens when people wander in the dark? They stumble, they fall, they lose their way. This is the second portent, the rise of sin. In the absence of religious knowledge, people are more likely to stray from the path of righteousness. They are more likely to commit sins, not out of malice, but out of ignorance. One of the most glaring examples of this is the consumption of alcohol. In a world clouded by ignorance, drinking becomes not just common but normalized. The health risks, the societal issues, the spiritual implications, they all fade into the background, drowned out by the clinking of glasses and the laughter of those who see no harm in their actions. But let's be clear, this isn't about casting judgment or creating fear. This is about understanding the implications of a world that has lost its way, a world where ignorance and sin are no longer the exception, but the rule. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? But even in the darkest times, there is hope. Even when ignorance prevails and sin becomes common, there are those who hold on to their faith. There are those who seek knowledge, who strive to live righteously, who resist the pull of ignorance and sin. In such times, one's faith may be their only guiding light, and so it becomes more important than ever to hold on to that faith, to keep seeking knowledge, to keep striving for righteousness, because that is how we navigate through the darkness. That is how we find our way back to the light. In such times, one's faith may be their only guiding light. The final portent we will discuss is the prevalence of open illegal sexual intercourse. As religious knowledge dwindles and ignorance spreads, society begins to lose its moral compass. The sacred boundaries set by religion, which once guided our actions, start to blur. This moral degradation paves the way for illicit activities to become more common. In a world where sin is no longer met with repercussions, illicit activities are no longer seen as taboo, but instead, they are normalized. This normalization is not just a sign of societal decay, but it also heralds the approach of the hour. The implications of this on societal morality and structure are profound. Morality, once the bedrock of society, crumbles. The structure of society, built on the foundations of moral values, begins to weaken. It's a downward spiral where one sin leads to another and the cycle continues. When sin becomes the norm, the hour is not far off. We've taken a journey through some of the portents of the hour as described in the Hadith. We've explored the prophesied disappearance of religious knowledge, marked by the passing of learned men and women. We've delved into the predicted rise of ignorance and sin, a time when the essence of faith becomes obscured. We've also examined the foretold prevalence of illicit activities, like alcohol consumption and open illegal sexual intercourse, becoming commonplace in society. Each of these portents paints a picture of a world in moral decline. However, in such times, it is our faith that serves as an anchor, a source of strength and resilience. We must strive to seek knowledge, promote understanding, and uphold the tenets of our faith. Let's remember to be the beacon of morality in a world that may sometimes lose its way. In the face of such portents, one's faith becomes a beacon of hope and guidance. Until next time, stay mindful and vigilant.